Good morning. I'm up early because the neighbour's kids keep slamming the door. I think the garage door and waking me up. Um, I kept hearing in my head all last night and all today the words "how to spot a liar." Um, there was an incident yesterday where I saw someone who I knew who was with someone who was clearly manipulating her, but I don't think she has. Well, people don't. I don't think people stay with people if they know the person's a manipulator. So it seems it could be obvious to assume that she has no clue that he's lying to her and he's a manipulator. When I walked in the door of the supermarket, as soon as he saw me getting closer, he quickly grabs her and he starts kissing her on the cheek. And she was obviously very upset over something. And um, and then I went away and got stuff, and then came back, and they were still on the line. So I was getting served when I was getting served, and she kept looking at me, and I kept smiling at her, and it reminded me of, and she was very upset with him over something, and he wouldn't look me in the eye. That's another reason I knew, because he's obviously very insecure about me being anywhere near her. This is the girl, the kitten, the one that fell in love with me years ago, and has been under the care of a whole bunch of bad people. And um, it was always one of my goals to try and help her get enough self esteem, enough courage, and enough wisdom to realize that she's in a situation that she's been manipulated. And when I was watching her yesterday, it reminded me, I got that thing in my head of when I was at the shop at the Dynamo Dairy. And there was this woman with this guy, and he pulled up in the car and he started yelling at her and abusing her. She got out of the car, and he wouldn't. He was going to get it. She got out of the car, and he said, "Get back in the car, you swear it!" Or I can't remember if he swore what he said, but he's been very forceful. And me and this other guy were there, and I stopped and I leaned against a pole, and I just stood there watching, but I was close by, and the other guy was on the other side, and he was watching close by. We were making sure he wasn't going to hit her or anything. But the thing here is, and I was talking to a policeman about this too, it's very frustrating when you go up to help a woman when the woman goes back to the person who's hurting her or tormenting her or driving her crazy. It doesn't have to be physical abuse, it can be mental, emotional abuse. But the point is they're driving the person crazy, and you're and we were leaning against the pole and we were waiting to see what she would do, whether she'd come to us. And I kept smiling at her and nodding my head at her, like, you can come to us and it's all right. And the guy went to get out of the car at one of the stage, and I stepped out and then stood there in front of him, and he saw me, and he realized he'd have to actually deal with a male, and he immediately sat back down in the car and closed the door again. And he started yelling and swearing at her to get back in the car. And they had this argument. I can't remember how long it went for. It wasn't long. And she went and hopped back in the car. She kept looking at us like she was tempted to come to us. But as the policeman said to me, you'll save them that day. And then 2 days later, or the very next day, he comes up to the police station or wherever, picks her up and takes her home, because she goes back to him. And the thing about courage and realizing you're with a manipulator is realizing it and never going back. And you have to burn the bridges behind you and never go back again. And it's the only safe thing to do, but you can't do it if you're not going to try. I think in those cases, the manipulator has some type of connection to the person. And the connection is so strong that they keep going back to the person. And therefore, when the person realizes they've been lied to and manipulated, sorry, they break away for good. And they don't go back. And this woman went with the guy and drove off with him. And me and the guy just sort of looked at each other and shook our heads, and then we went our different ways. I've seen a lot of that. I remember when I was younger, I saw a lot of women in those situations, and you can't help them. They'll either go from one manipulator state to another. In the case of the kitten, her mother was manipulated her in her parents, and she was always mentally weak all through her life, but she didn't realize it. She was actually very vain and very arrogant when she was younger. Then her life just sort of crashed, and then she became very weak and very needy, and she clung on to all these guys who told her they would be her hero, and she wanted a hero. So she's been doing that. I think she's nearly in her 30s, and she's been doing that all her life, just go from 17 to about her 30s, I think, something like that. I've only seen her life from a distance, but I can tell through discernment that the guys that she's with are not good people, but she can't. And it's like the woman getting back in the car, whereas the police said they save a girl, they go around, there's a domestic, they take her away to protect her, and then the next day she's back with the guy. So the thing inside doesn't click. Something in her has to click and say, this is a bad person. I am repeating a bad situation in my head with different people as the years go by, and I'm never happy. It never gets better. It's never going to get better because I keep doing the same thing over and over again. And with my ex, one of my exes, actually all my exes probably, they would tell me things, they would admit truth, they would lie about other people who were good people that I knew. My ex was good at that. There'd be people I thought were good people, through discernment or talking to them, I think, that's a really nice person. And she'd tell me stories, and no, it's a bad person. And I'd be like, oh, really? And first, I always believed it because she was my wife. And with my girlfriends, it was like, she's my girlfriend, she's here with me. She's telling the truth. She must be telling the truth. And you want to believe that. You want to believe that they're telling the truth and they're not telling lies. And so you're sitting there, but there's all these signs, the red flags, the signs everywhere. And they'll say like that, you watch, that person's going to do this. And the person doesn't. And you go, but they didn't. Then they'll make them an excuse why they didn't do it. So they tell you lies, and they have a lie to cover up the lie. Being gullible is believing the lie that covers up the first lie. Or not being inquisitive enough to, when they omit truth, to dig deeper and say, well, what's really going on here? And when they tell you lies about other people, saying to yourself, I better go and talk to that person and find out, is this a lie? Especially with someone you need, or someone who could be helpful to you in your life. Someone, say you wanted your children to learn piano, and someone tells you lies about the person who teaches piano that you want to go to. So you take your children somewhere else, it turns out to be a bad experience, and you're wondering. And then you find out, yes, one of the things about splitting up with exes is you find out after you split up with your ex from other people, or meeting the people your ex always said were bad people, that they were good people. And it's a horrible experience meeting them and then saying, and realizing that the person that your ex had told you was a bad person, and you shared that news to other people that it was a bad person, only to find out it was a good person. And I've actually sat with people very humbly and said, I said bad things about you, and they'd look at me and they'd go, oh, what? really? And I said, yes, my ex told me things about you. She said they were true. She said you've done bad things and you're a bad person. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, well, people gossip and tell lies for whatever reason. And they're normally very good about it, but I kind of like to let people know because, you see, if people are saying bad things about them and they don't know, well, it's nice, ignorance is nice, they say, but not when you're being tracked. I don't think people should know. But liars will admit the truth. They will tell you what they'll tell you, then they'll lie on top of the lie, and then they'll lie on top of the lie. And if you're in a group of liars, and I've been in a group of liars many times, my family had shady friends, my parents had shady friends, my sisters had friends I would never even associate with in any way. And because of that, I was always forced into groups where there people come visit at our house, and I didn't like a lot of them. I just didn't like. Some of them I liked, and there was so. But I remember the time when I had the badge, and I had every member of my family had the key, and I didn't know. Mum gave me the original key, but I didn't know she had a spare key, and she went and got that key copied and gave it to all my sisters. And then they were all lying to me for a long time, maybe 1 or 2 years, going into the batch, stealing money, sleeping in there when they'd come home drunk, and things like that. And the whole time when I would go to work, and the whole time I had no idea. I'd go home and I'd put $80 away, and there'd be 60, and I'd be like, what happened to the rest? Or the whole lot would be gone. And I think, oh, I must have lost it. I was so unconfident. I so thought I was a fool. I was foolish. I was clumsy. I would lose things. And I'd sit there and I'd say, I'm sure I put the money there. And then I'd search the place and it'd be gone. I'd be like, oh, James, you idiot. What did you do with that? And I thought it was me. For years I thought it was me. And then one of my sisters got fed up with it, and she turned around and said, look, she came into the base, knocked on the door, and I said, yes. And she said, I need to talk to you. I can't do this anymore. And I said, do what? And she said, I can't stand this anymore. Come with me. And she grabbed me and hauled me into the kitchen, into the house. And my mother and my sisters were sitting there. And she said, sit down. And I stared and I looked at them and I sat down. And they all stared at me and she said, tell him. And then Mum just said, oh, we all got a key to your badge. And I said, what? And she said, we've got a key to your badge. All of us have. And they all pulled out their keys. And I just stared and she said, oh, we've been going in there using it, taking money and all this. And it was a huge shock, to say the least. But the point is not, the point is how gullible I was. The point is how I saw the whole group as being honourable people that wouldn't do that. It's the same with social groups. I've been with groups of people in work who've lied to me. The whole group has lied to me. I know a situation where a girl was working with a bunch of women and they were told lies about the girl. And a guy, because she was in love with him, to keep her away from him, were told lies that he was a rapist or something, and so they protected her, the girl, and kept her away from him. The girl, whenever she saw him, she wanted to be with him, but she was young and had mental issues, so they grouped together under the lies of the parents to keep them split apart because the mother didn't like him. You can be in social groups where people take you out drinking to try and get you to join because they believe that drinking. I remember this as a teenager that say drinking makes you happy. Everyone laughs. They're drunk. They're having a good time. And they'd find someone who was depressed and they'd take them out to parties all the time to get them drunk and what they believed was happy. And the person would want to do it. And in the end, the peer pressure of so many people in feeling of wanting to be wanted, they'd end up doing it. And in one case, I know a young guy, one of the nicest people I know, OD'd and died because everyone kept taking him to parties. So some people can mean well and be lied to, sucked in, and then lead you astray. The people you're with, the person you married, can do the exact same thing. I had exes that did all. So what I do with my life is I'm passing this on to other people. I went through all these. I've only had 4 proper relationships anyway, but they were all because of my parents destroyed my confidence as a child. My father was never there for me to build up my courage and teach me how to be a man. My mother was manipulative, so I fell for every female narcissist that got me. And if they started off as not a narcissist, as time went by, they realised my weaknesses and they said to themselves, we can get stuff out of James. James is pretty gullible, and my mother, I remember my mother sitting down with my ex-wife, when she was my wife, telling her, I walked into the kitchen, I stood there at the door, I think I was having a cigarette, and I could hear them in the kitchen. Mum was telling her how to manipulate with me. And when I walked in, Mum just carried on as if I wasn't there. She's, James is so dumb, he'll fall for it anyway. And then up in Auckland at a wedding, my ex-wife's mother, I walked in and caught her telling her how to trick me. She said things like, let him take control of his money, but get him to believe that he is in control of the money. And then, but just take it and spend it as you want and just lie to him and it's fine. And that's your spending money. And my mother, when she was telling my ex how to manipulate, she was saying, look, James is really weak for this, and James always falls for this. James has always done this. What you do is da-da-da-da-da. And so I had 2 women narcissists telling my ex-wife how to do things to me to manipulate. And she did when we got back the second time. This was the first time. So I try to explain to people how to break away and get away from those situations, because you have to recognize that you're being tricked. This is the hard part people don't get. It's recognizing that they're being tricked, that they're with a narcissist, that the person is saying this is going to happen. They'll say something about a bad person, they'll set up a situation and say, look, watch them, they're going to do da-da-da-da. The person doesn't do it, so they cover it, and they say, oh, it must be a bad day. They're not feeling like stalking someone or stealing something, so you're following them around the shop. The point is they cover the lie with another lie, and you're gullible when you believe the second lie. The first one's a lie. You see with your eyes, or someone there counters it, and you know that it's a lie. It's proven to you it's a lie. But then they cover it with another lie. It's when you listen to the second lie that you've just been sucked in. And the other one is fear and believing you've got nowhere to go. There's always somewhere to go. God will always show you. Like, you could be sitting there right now getting manipulated by someone, look at the window, and you see someone go by who's, a good, decent person, and that's the person God's telling you to go to. God leads people to you and leads you to people, and you need to trust that. And because they'll be good people. And the other thing I noticed when I saw this guy in the supermarket with the kitten was that he wouldn't look me in the eye. He kept looking left, he kept looking right, he kept looking everywhere. And people don't look me in the eye. When they do that, I know they're a liar. I know they're up to something. And I also know he's terrified. He's scared of me. And so I was looking at him, I was thinking, you're scared, aren't you? And also, when they don't look you in the eye, they're hiding something. Even though people say the eye contact thing doesn't work, and you turn around, you look someone in the eye and you say to them, you look at them and you say, you're lying. And they go like this, and they'll look down, and they'll look and they'll say, no, I'm not. Although Father, I'm going, no, I'm not. People say that's not true, but my experience has been that it's true. And so, but then there was that woman we knew a few years ago in work, and she was a blonde woman, and her line was, I set her up one night and I asked her a question. I knew she wasn't going to keep a promise, and I said, well, blah, blah, blah happened. I looked her right in the eyes across the table, and she looked me right in the eyes, and she said, no. She said, yes, well, and it didn't. And she knew when she looked at me. So there are the professional liars. There are the people who will look you in the eye directly and lie to you. And some people practice it. The longer you know them, the more they look at you in the eye. They keep lying until they get so good at it with you. They might not be able to do another person, but with you, they'll look you in the eye, and they'll get so good at looking you in the eye and lying that it becomes second nature to them. So you have to put the whole thing together. Trust your instincts. Trust your discernment. Trust your instincts. Look at the person and say, why am I always arguing with this person, debating with this person, and going through all these pointless issues, when if we were equally matched, we'd be on the same page? When you're arguing or you're going through that, you're not on the same page. It's like the woman who got in the car with the guy. She had issues from her parenting that were keeping her connected with narcissists. And for the rest of her life, she probably stayed like that. And see, that's the point. And that was the point to me right up until my ex left. And I vowed I'd never be with a narcissist again. So I studied narcissism. And what I gained was a picture of what a narcissist was. And so now, when I actually meet narcissists all the time, and I can, even if they're gorgeous and they're pretty and they're really come across as nice people, I can see and I look at the hands, like I was saying with this guy, the fact that he wouldn't look me in the eye, the fact that as soon as he saw me, he grabbed her and he pulled her towards him and started kissing her on the cheek. That was insecurity. Not looking in her eye was fear. He was scared of me. Not because I was a bad person who was going to hurt him. He was scared of me because of what he was doing to her, and he knew I'd kick his butt. I've given the chance. And so you look at all the signs of the person, and you look at how they talk to other people when they put on an act, and they're trying to get away quickly and all this sort of stuff. And you look at what they say. You ask other people when they tell you something that's meaningful about other people. Ask other people. Don't take their word for it. Ask other people. And then when you get a different story, don't cover it over, because the person. That's what I was always guilty of. I was always covering it over and saying, oh no, it must be a lie because I love her. She wouldn't do that to me. You gotta, that's where gullible. You gotta not be gullible. Sorry, I'm stuttering because I'm tired. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. But it's common sense and protective to your life, and the wise thing to do to investigate the person you're with. It's not being dishonest. It's not being wrong. It's not being bad. If they are manipulating you and they're tricking, like all the relationships I was in, then you need to know. And the reason I've been single for 16 years is because I don't want to get into a frivolous relationship anymore. The whole thing terrifies me. And I don't want to do that anymore. I'm over that stuff, over people like that. And so I'd rather be alone than be with someone who's just... I was watching her talking to him, and she was all stressed out and upset, and I was thinking, I don't do that anymore. I don't go through those kind of situations with anyone anymore. I don't have to plead my case or beg my case or get them, and suck up to them, or I don't have to do anything like that. And if I was with someone, I would let them be themselves so they can find out who they are. And just let them roll. I'll just roll along with them and be there for them all the time, but not tell them how to think, not tell them what to do, not try to force them into situations they don't want to be in, and let them come out of their own shell, and then they will understand themselves. So, yeah. Anyway, God bless you. Have a good day.